I'm Nathan from Olympia, Washington. This happened when I was 11, about 5 years ago, but I still remember everything like it was yesterday. It was summer, and I'd spent the whole afternoon at the park near my house. My mom let me go alone because she could literally see the park from our kitchen window. I was on the swings and climbing around with two other neighborhood kids. Around 5 p.m., I said goodbye to them and started heading home. On the way, I grabbed a chocolate ice cream with rainbow sprinkles from the ice cream truck. I was walking and eating, just happy to be alive. That was until the sky suddenly opened up and it started pouring down like crazy. Within seconds, I was completely soaked. I ducked under a large cedar tree and stood there, watching my ice cream turn to soup. The rain was drumming loudly on the leaves above me. Suddenly, my eyes landed on a woman across the street. She was standing out in the middle of the downpour without any cover at all. The strangest part was that she wasn't trying to get dry or even move. I wiped the water from my face and took a closer look. Her hair was matted and stuck to her face. Her clothes were drenched and clinging to her body in a really unsettling way. Yet she wasn't shivering. Not even as the rain came down hard enough to crush anyone else in her place. As I blinked, our eyes met, and she gave me this unnaturally wide smile that showed me the entire inside of her mouth. I swallowed hard and looked away because it totally freaked me out. I tried to just focus on my ice cream instead. I told myself she was just some random lady and that everything was fine. When I looked back, she was gone. I scanned the area, but I couldn't see her anywhere. Then suddenly, I saw her peeking out from behind a tree. I couldn't see her body, but her head was tilted out and she was still smiling. I took a step back and she ducked behind the trunk, only to peek out again as if we were two friends playing hide and seek. My skin crawled and my heart started hammering in my chest. She kept hiding and peeking. She ducked behind one tree, and the next time she appeared, she was behind another even closer to me. I was so scared I couldn't even move. Suddenly, she was behind the tree right next to mine, so close I could have reached out and touched her if I'd wanted to. My body began to shake as thunder rumbled over our heads. She leaned toward me and just stared. Water was streaming off her, and I could see that her eyes were nothing but hollowed-out sockets staring back at me. "Do you want to see a magic trick?" She chuckled. I screamed. I threw my ice cream at her face and bolted, even though I couldn't barely see where I was going through the rain. I ran for a long time. My shoes kept slipping on the wet ground and my clothes felt so heavy that it was a struggle just to drag myself along. Finally, I had to stop because I couldn't breathe anymore. I stood under another tree and tried to catch my breath, looking around frantically to see if she was following me. And there she was, standing on the other side of the road in the exact same spot where she had been earlier. "Do you still want to see a magic trick?" She screamed and smiled at me. I shook my head and backed away from her. "No, leave me alone," I sobbed. She brought her hands up to her face and grabbed her own jaw. I watched in horror as she pulled and stretched her mouth wider and wider until it just kept opening. She ripped it all the way back to her ears. I could see the skin tearing and so much blood was pouring out, mixing with the rain and running down her body. Through it all, she wouldn't stop laughing, this horrible gurgling sound. Screaming and covering my eyes with my hands, I saw her start to crawl toward me, still playing with her mangled jaw, before everything went black. When I woke up, I was lying in the mud. An older man was standing over me, looking really worried. "Kid, are you okay? Can you hear me?" he asked. I sat up and looked around. The rain had stopped and everything was quiet except for the puddles. He told me he'd found me fainted there, 2 blocks from the park. My mom came to get me, crying because she had been so scared. They got me home, put me in dry clothes, and tucked me into bed. But that night I came down with a massive fever. I saw things because of it. I kept seeing that woman in her torn mouth and I could hear her laughing over and over. The fever lasted a whole week. My mom took me to the doctor twice, but they just said it was a virus. Eventually the fever broke and I got better, but I never told anyone what I actually saw. I mean, who would believe me? I was 11. They'd just think I made it up or hallucinated the whole thing. I'm 16 now and still live in Olympia, but I don't go to that park anymore. I don't walk those streets, and when it rains hard, I stay inside no matter what. Because when it rains, I look out the window and she's standing there across the street, water pouring over her, smiling. And I know if I look at her too long, she'll start playing that game again, hiding behind trees, peeking out, getting closer and closer until she's right beside me, asking if I want to see her magic trick. And I really don't want to find out what happens if I say yes. A magic trick that stays with you long after the rain stops. If that jaw-dropping horror earned its place in your nightmares, hit like to feed the shadows. But stay alert, because our next stranger doesn't want to show you a trick. He's waiting for you to return to where it all began. I'm from Tacoma, and I've lived in the same neighborhood long enough that walking home alone at 11 p.m. wasn't something I ever gave a second thought to. The night it happened, I was over at my friend Jenna's house. We were cramming for a history test the next day and totally lost track of time. My parents knew where I was, so I wasn't worried. Besides, I'd probably walked those 8 blocks 100 times before. The first few blocks went fine. It was mostly just me and a few stray animals on the road. Everything felt exactly like it should, until I turned onto Spruce Street and spotted that old man. He was standing under a flickering streetlight, hunched over in a filthy jacket covered in stains all down the front. He was coughing so hard his entire body was shaking from the impact. Thinking he might just be a sick vagrant, I kept walking. I was only a few feet away when he leaned over and spat on the sidewalk. Even from 20 feet away, I could see it was dark and thick against the concrete. The smell of copper hit me, and it was absolutely foul. I kept my head down and picked up the pace. I wasn't going to look at him. I was just going to pass him and keep moving. But I did look. I don't know why, but when I glanced up, he was already staring at me with this massive, creepy grin that chilled me to the bone. I could see blood on his teeth dripping down his chin, and his tongue was the color of grass. I moved past him as smoothly as I could and turned onto Oak Street. I kept walking, telling myself he was just a sick homeless man and that I'd be fine. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me, a heavy, dragging sound. I turned around, and there he was. My breath hitched. He was still smiling, still bleeding, and he was following me at a steady pace, not gaining on me, but not falling back either. My heart started racing. I turned onto Maple Street and sped up, but the footsteps stayed right with me. I kept looking over my shoulder, and he was getting closer. Now he was maybe 50 feet behind me. "Hey, why are you following me?" I stopped and spun around. My voice came out much smaller than I wanted it to. He stopped and just stood there, swaying slightly. "I thought you were leading me," he rasped. He coughed again, laughing at the same time, making this horrible, wet, choking sound. Before I could even process that, he leaned in and whispered, "Go back to where you left me." All I could think about was turning and running as fast as my legs could carry me. My backpack was thumping against my spine, and my lungs were burning, but I didn't stop. I could still hear him behind me. I was so disoriented from the panic that I didn't even know which way my house was anymore. Right then, my foot caught a crack in the asphalt, and I went down hard on both hands. The skin on my knee split open, and blood started soaking through my jeans. It took me a second just to catch my breath. Everything hurt, and I couldn't see straight because I was crying. When I finally scrambled up and looked back, there he was, maybe 15 yards away. He'd stopped running and was just walking towards me. I kept going, even though my knee was screaming in pain. In my panic, I looked around and realized where I was. Mrs. Whitmore's house was only 2 doors down from mine. I lunged for her door and started pounding on it. Mr. Whitmore opened it, looking confused and worried. "Maya?" I turned and pointed at the street behind me. "A man is following me. He's right there. He's been following me for 5 blocks, and he won't stop." Mr. Whitmore peered over my shoulder. The street was empty, except for the parked cars and the streetlights. "There's nobody there, honey," He was just there. He said something about me leaving him somewhere. I swear he was right behind me the whole time. They brought me inside. Mrs. Whitmore got me some water and a bandage, but I couldn't stop shaking. When my dad came to pick me up, the Whitmores explained what happened. My dad thought I'd just spooked myself because of a homeless man and kept telling me I was safe now, that everything was okay. But on the way back to our house, I saw the prints on the sidewalk. They were dark and wet, leading directly to the Whitmore's porch, stopping exactly where I had been standing when I turned around. I didn't sleep that night. I kept the lights on and the door locked, and every time I closed my eyes, I could see that smile. By morning, the prints were gone. It had rained or something, or maybe I just imagined them. Honestly, I don't know what to think anymore. I'm 19 now in college in Seattle, but I think about that old man all the time. I still remember every single detail, including the words he said to me. I've replayed them 1,000 times, and they still don't make sense. I've never left anyone anywhere. I'd never seen him before that night, but he recognized me. He looked at me like he knew exactly who I was. Sometimes I wonder if he's still out there, prowling the streets of Tacoma, looking for the person he thinks I am. Still bleeding, and still smiling. Some nights, I hear that coughing right outside my dorm window, and when I get up to look, there's nobody there, except for wet footprints on the sidewalk, leading directly to my door. I'm a guy living in Bakersfield, California, working in insurance to pay the bills. My job has me traveling all over the place, and this particular night wasn't supposed to be any different from the rest. I was heading home after a meeting with a client in Fresno, cruising down Highway 99 South. If you've never been out that way, Highway 99 is incredibly isolated. It's nothing but flat farmland on either side for miles and miles, shrouded in total heavy darkness. I'd driven that route enough times to feel comfortable, though. Around 10 p.m., both of my front tires suddenly blew out. The car swerved violently, and I had to fight the steering wheel just to keep from flipping before I finally came to a stop on the shoulder. When I eventually got out to check the damage, it was bad. Both tires were completely shredded. There was green glass scattered all over the road from a broken bottle. Some drunk must have tossed it out their window, and it shattered right in my lane. Of course, I only had one spare, so I called 911. They put me in touch with a towing company, but the guy said it would take at least 45 minutes to get to me. I had no choice but to wait. Leaning against my car, I lit a cigarette and watched the moonlight dance across the fields and the swaying trees. Suddenly, I got a massive case of the creeps, like I was being watched. Thinking it was just the isolation playing tricks on my mind, I got back in the car and started scrolling through my phone to distract myself. After about 15 minutes, nature called, and all that coffee I drank earlier was demanding a way out. I headed toward the nearest tree and started walking. Suddenly, I heard a rustling noise coming from behind a bush about 20 feet away. I froze in my tracks and turned around. I could have sworn I saw a shadow slip underneath the branches. My mouth went dry. "Hello?" I shouted. The rustling stopped, but that sickening feeling of being observed didn't go away. I quickly zipped up and started fast walking back to my car. Right then, I heard footsteps echoing behind me, perfectly synchronized with my own pace. I stopped and spun around. The road was empty in both directions. As I sped up, the footsteps behind me sped up too. I practically sprinted to my car, yanked the door open, dove inside, and locked every single door. I sat there panting, my heart hammering against my ribs. I scanned the darkness through the windows, but everything looked normal. I waited, heart in my throat, expecting someone to jump onto the hood, smash the glass, and attack me. After 10 minutes, nothing happened. I started to relax, laughing at my own stupidity. It was probably just an animal, maybe a coyote. Then I realized I still really had to go. I hadn't finished, and the fear had only made the urge worse. I checked my surroundings one last time before opening the door. This time I stayed close to the car, walking toward a different tree right by the road where I could see everything. I stood under the tree and scanned the area one more time. The road was completely empty. No cars, no sign of any creepy guy. I let out a sigh of relief and unzipped my jeans to finish what I'd started. I had just started to go when I felt a cold chill run down the back of my neck, that primal instinct that something terrible was about to happen. Suddenly, a high-pitched giggle echoed from somewhere above me. I froze and slowly tilted my eyes upward. A man was crouching on a thick branch directly above me, maybe 8 feet up. He looked absolutely deranged. He had a jagged buzz cut, bulging eyes, and, the most terrifying part, long threads or wires were hanging straight down from his scalp. When I looked closer, I realized with horror that the wires had been intentionally sewn into his head. His hands were covered in scars, too. He was grinning like a deranged clown, as if his whole twisted game was hilarious to him. As our eyes met, his smile widened even further. He opened his mouth and let out a blood-curdling scream. I stumbled back, tripping over my own feet, and hit the asphalt hard. My knees were scraped raw and my forehead slammed against the concrete. I could feel blood starting to pour into my eyes. The adrenaline kicked in. I scrambled to my feet and limped back to the car. By the time I got inside, blood had soaked through my shirt, but I didn't care. I slammed the door, locked it, and fumbled around for anything to wipe the blood away. I found a towel and pressed it against my head. Outside, the man was climbing down the tree like a giant spider, laughing the whole time. When he hit the ground, he just stood there, motionless, like a statue, staring at me without blinking. My fingers fumbled over my phone. I needed to call 911 again, but I was so shaken I couldn't hit the buttons, and I couldn't take my eyes off him. My heart was thumping in my chest as I waited for him to come for me, but he didn't move an inch. I don't know how much time passed before headlights finally cresting the highway, and a tow truck honked its horn, making me jump out of my skin. The truck pulled in behind my car, and the driver climbed out. He was a big guy in overalls, looking completely normal and safe. "You the guy with the blowouts?" he called out. I nodded, still trembling, and pointed a bloody, shaking finger toward where the man had been standing. "What?" the driver grunted. When I looked back at the spot, it was empty. The man was gone. I broke down in sobs, shaking my head. "Are you okay? You're bleeding," the driver said. I just nodded again, unable to find the words. He helped me with some basic first aid, quickly hooked up my car and loaded it onto the flatbed. I rode in the cab with him, constantly staring out the window, searching for that man, those wires, and that face. I never saw him again, and I never told the driver what happened. He wouldn't have believed me anyway. It's been a few months now, and I make it a point to never, ever drive alone at night. Especially on an empty highway, because I know he's still out there, with those wires hidden in the trees, just waiting for the next stranded driver stupid enough to step out of their car.